stiff arm by Derrick Henry on Fitzpatrick there at the end of that play.
When you come in against Derrick Henry, you better go low. Do not stand up with that man and let him just throw you.
This guy makes grown men tremble with his speed, power, and a stiff arm out of a Marvel movie. From high school star to Heisman winner to NFL legend, this is the story of how Derrick Henry became an NFL force. But not everything came easy for Henry in high school. One easy way to describe Derrick Henry as a high school player is cheat code. When he arrived at Yulee High, he was already 6'3", weighed over 200 pounds, and was itching to hit the field. When it came to agility drills and shuttle runs, things got a little awkward. His feet couldn't keep up with the rest of his body, and he often tripped over himself. That's when the school brought in Alvin Gunter, a world-class sprinter and renowned trainer from Jacksonville. Gunter saw Henry's potential immediately, but he also knew it would take time for the big kid to fully grow into his body. By the end of summer, Henry was starting to figure it out. His hard work paid off, and he began connecting with his body more and more. As a freshman, Henry rushed for 2,400 yards and 26 touchdowns in just 11 games. That's 224 yards and over 2 touchdowns per game. His numbers only improved over his sophomore and junior seasons, but what he did as a senior defied logic. In a playoff game against Perry Taylor County, Henry was credited with 58 carries for 482 yards and 6 touchdowns, surpassing Texas legend Ken Hall, who had set the record in 1953. Remarkably, that wasn't even Henry's highest yardage total of the season. Earlier in the year, he rushed for a state record 510 yards in a single game. By the end of his high school career, Henry had amassed a staggering 12,124 rushing yards. For recruiters, Derrick Henry was the ultimate catch. Schools from all over the nation wanted him, but even as they fawned over him, many still raised eyebrows about his position. ESPN and other recruiting services labeled him as an athlete instead of a pure running back. But Derrick was crystal clear when he met with recruiters. He was going to play running back. He wanted to win a national championship, and he was going to win a Heisman Trophy and then make it to the NFL. 3 schools, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, stood out as the top contenders for Derrick's future. Sure, the attention was cool at first, but for Derrick, it got old fast. All the calls, visits, and hype were draining. He decided he wanted to commit early, way before his junior season even started. And just like that, he made his choice. Alabama. Derrick Henry didn't waste any time making his mark at Alabama. It was just weeks after Nick Saban's final visit to seal the deal. Henry wasn't looking to sit around and soak up the college life. He had his eyes on the prize, getting on the field in 2013. The coaches were open to it, but they kept it real with him. The depth chart was already stacked with stars like TJ Yeldon and Kenyon Drake. Still, Henry wasn't about a little old thing like competition slow him down. From the moment he hit the field for spring practice, jaws were dropping. At 18, Henry was already built like a tank, 6'3", 243 pounds of pure muscle with speed that could rival a cheetah. Teammates couldn't believe their eyes. In the weight room, they watched in awe as he stacked 45-pound plates like he was building a castle, muttering, "That's not a freshman, that's a grown man." But even a beast like Henry had to wait his turn. As a freshman, he didn't see much action as he wanted. When he did get the ball, he made magic, finishing the season with 27 carries for a whopping 282 yards. But for a guy who once carried the ball 45 times in a single high school game, standing on the sidelines watching others play was painful. Henry wasn't one to sit quietly, though. Frustrated, he went straight to the boss, Coach Saban. He told Saban he was struggling, feeling like he was wasting away when he knew he could help the team. Saban mostly listened, nodding along, and said he understood. However, the 2014 Sugar Bowl wiped out all the doubt on the freshman. Henry's breakout moment in the game arrived like a fireworks show. He didn't start the game, but when his number was called, he lit up the field. Henry outran the entire Oklahoma team, racking up 100 rushing yards compared to their 81. While Alabama lost the game 45-31, one thing was crystal clear. Derrick Henry wasn't just a freshman anymore, he was the star of the future. His sophomore season was even better as he shared the backfield with Yeldon. In the season opener against West Virginia, Henry rushed for 113 yards and scored a touchdown, helping Alabama secure a 33-23 win in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. The big plays didn't stop there. He started his domination with big games each week on college football's biggest stages. Henry truly took over in the SEC championship game against Missouri. With 141 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, he powered Alabama to a 42-13 win and a spot in the college football playoff. Facing Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl semifinal, Henry delivered another strong performance with 95 rushing yards, a touchdown, and 54 receiving yards, though Alabama fell short 42-35. By the end of his sophomore year, Henry had totaled 990 rushing yards on 172 carries with 11 touchdowns. He wasn't just a player to watch, he was becoming a superstar. By the time Yeldon left for the NFL, it was Derrick time. Offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin wasn't messing around. His game plan, hand the ball to Derrick Henry. Again, and again, and again. And in Derrick's junior season, he was an unstoppable force. In 15 games, Derrick carried the ball 395 times. He rumbled his way to 2,219 yards and 28 touchdowns, leaving defenders in his dust, or flattened on the ground. Derrick's insane performance didn't go unnoticed. He went head-to-head with Stanford star Christian McCaffrey for the Heisman Trophy, and guess what? Derrick won. He became the first Alabama running back to ever take home college football's most prestigious award. 1 month later, Derrick Henry ended his college career with a bang. In the national championship game against Clemson, Henry carried Alabama on his back, literally. He ran the ball 36 times for 158 yards and scored 3 touchdowns, helping the Crimson Tide win a wild 45-40 shootout. With a trophy in hand and nothing left to prove, Henry declared for the NFL draft, leaving behind a college legacy that will be talked about forever. But before the draft, Henry had one more chance to show off what he could do, the NFL Scouting Combine. His biggest moment was running a 4.54 in the 40-yard dash. That might not sound like a big deal until you realize he weighed 247 pounds at the time. And don't forget his insane 37-inch vertical jump. It was like watching a superhero pretending to be a football player. Even after wowing at the Combine, there was one big question. When would Henry get drafted? Surprisingly, most experts didn't think it would happen early. Why? Some called him a throwback runner, which is a nice way of saying he wasn't the type of running back that caught a lot of passes or fit the modern NFL style. Teams were skeptical. Could Derrick Henry really fit in today's NFL? And how long would he last? The doubts were real, but so was Henry's talent, a rare kind that made you sit up and take notice. When draft day came around, it was Ezekiel Elliott who stole the spotlight, going 4th overall to the Dallas Cowboys. For Henry, he had to wait. Day 2 of the draft rolled in, and as other names were called, teams debated. Henry was the next best running back on many draft boards, but would anyone take the leap? Well, Tennessee Titans couldn't resist. They traded up to snag Henry with the 45th pick. Critics raised eyebrows. After all, the Titans had just traded for DeMarco Murray, the NFL's rushing king from 2014. Did they really need 2 bulldozers at the back? But Coach Mike Mularkey had a plan. His ground and pound offense wasn't about finesse. It was about smashing defenses into submission. Murray at 28 wasn't the future, but Henry, he had time on his side. By 2016, the Titans' backfield was a nightmare for defenders. Murray, Henry, and quarterback Marcus Mariota turned Tennessee into a rushing machine, finishing the season 3rd in total rushing yards. And Henry, in his rookie year, he racked up 490 yards, 5 touchdowns, and one unforgettable lesson for defenders. Don't mess with his stiff arm. Seriously, it was like watching a superhero toss villains across the field. Fast forward to 2017, and Henry wasn't waiting in anyone's shadow. He split carries with Murray, but by season's end, Henry had outpaced him. When Murray went down with a knee injury in Week 16, Henry seized the moment. He didn't just take the reins, he bulldozed through them. While his stat line wasn't pretty, 28 carries for just 51 yards, the Titans got the win. That victory punched their ticket to the playoffs, and Henry's real moment to shine was just around the corner. The wild card game against the Kansas City Chiefs was Derrick Henry's grand introduction to the NFL world. The plan was simple. One thing we know, he gets better the longer the game goes on. As defenders wear down, Henry only seems to grow stronger, and this game was no exception. After a slow start, Henry finished with 150 156 rushing yards. The Titans were moving on to face the Patriots in the divisional round. But against New England, Henry's magic fizzled. The Patriots defense locked him up, and with Tennessee trailing 21-7 in the second quarter, the Titans were forced to abandon the run. Henry ended the day with just 28 yards on 12 carries. Still, the Kansas City game had proven one thing. Derrick Henry wasn't just any running back. He was a beast on the field, and he was only getting started. However, the 2018 offseason brought a new level of that beast for Derrick Henry. After the tough loss to the Patriots, the Titans decided it was time for a shakeup. They fired coach Mike Mularkey. Then came another big move. DeMarco Murray was released in March. With Murray gone, Henry stepped into the spotlight as Tennessee's lead back. The stage was set. With Mike Vrabel calling the shots, Henry had the chance to prove he wasn't just good. He was great. Then came week 14, where Henry kicked off what would become his favorite tradition, absolutely destroying the Jacksonville Jaguars. In 2018, it was clear Henry was a rising star into an unstoppable force. But 2019, that's when he became the guy. In just 15 games, Henry turned the NFL into his personal highlight reel. He led the league in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. He never had fewer than 13 carries in a game and became the centerpiece of Tennessee's offense. Oh, and let's not forget his annual annihilation of the Jaguars. In Week 12, he casually ran for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns against them because why not? Then came the playoffs, where Henry didn't just shine, he dominated. In the wild card round against the Patriots, a game forever remembered as Tom Brady times for 182 yards and a touchdown.
And he's got a touchdown.
Destroying the Patriots defense like they were speed bumps. But the divisional round against that was the end of Henry's story. Even after a season where he had a mind-boggling 386 carries and 400, he was hitting his prime. And in 2020, he delivered one of the greatest the rest of the regular season. Yet the King wasn't done. He returned for the playoffs, suiting up against the Bengals in the divisional round. While he managed 62 yards and a touchdown, the Titans lost a nail-biter by 3 points. For the first time in his career, questions began to swirl. Could Henry bounce back? Pressure started creeping in. Was the King's reign over? Or was it? And trust me, he's not blowing that money on fancy face creams. No, Henry's investment is all about peak performance. We're talking personal chef, IV fluids, vitamins, you name it, he's got it. But it's not just the big spending that makes Derrick Henry one of the NFL's most unstoppable forces. His workouts and diet magic happens. His leg workouts, they're a nightmare you wouldn't survive. Take, for instance, his hill sprints, hill agility drills, Bulgarian split squats, and of course, add deadlifts, box jumps, one-legged squats, and casual 500-pound squats to the mix, and you've got a recipe for sheer dominance. And this is where Henry's 6-figure budget flexes the hardest. His recovery routine is next level. Cold therapy, infrared sauna sessions, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, massage therapy, cupping, dry needling, acupuncture, cold tubs, hot tubs, Epsom salt baths. The guy practically has a spa in his house. And let's not forget his personal hyperbaric oxygen chamber that helps speed up recovery by pumping oxygen straight into his body like a cheat code. So if anyone could bounce back from an injury like this, it was Henry. Alive by steamrolling the Jags twice. In both games against his favorite punching bag, he ran for over 100 yards. By 2023, though, things started looking shaky. Not for Henry, but for the Titans. The team was falling apart faster than a sandcastle in high tide. It just can do. After the disaster of a season, the Titans hit the eject button, firing head coach Mike Vrabel and releasing Henry. It was 8 of the greatest years of my life, Henry said as his time with Tennessee came to an emotional end. And in true Henry fashion, he saved one last masterpiece for his final game with the Titans, the Jaguars. But King Henry wasn't done ruling the field. The big question was, who would want a 30-year-old running back? The answer? Everyone. On March 12, 2024, Henry signed a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens, a match made in football heaven. With Lamar Jackson as the quarterback and a solid receiving core, Baltimore needed a bruising runner to close out games. Fun fact, the Ravens had actually tried to trade for Henry during the 2023 season. Baltimore was where I knew I wanted to be, leash. But the start of Henry's Ravens era was less than legendary. In Week 1, up against the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, Henry managed just 13 carries for 46 yards in a tough loss. Not the Hollywood debut everyone was hoping for, but hey. Facing the Cowboys, the same team that skipped signing him in the offseason, he racked up 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, leading the Ravens to a big road win. Rumor has it, Dallas owner Jerry Jones, the primetime Sunday Night Football matchup against the Buffalo Bills, he put on a clinic, torching them for 199 yards in a Ravens blowout. It wasn't just a game, it was a declaration, and the King hasn't slowed down since. In Week 6, he destroyed Washington for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Week 7, casual 169 yards against Tampa. Week 9, another day at the office, 106 yards and 2 scores against Denver. Here's the crazy part. Henry's doing this at an age when most running backs are watching from the couch. The numbers don't even make sense anymore. Derrick Henry's legacy is already cemented. Despite he still seems to be in his prime at age 30, it's nothing short of superhuman. So what do you think about King Henry? For NFL crazy moments, check this video right here, and don't forget to subscribe to Huddle Up for the best NFL videos on YouTube.